Howdy. Welcome to Sylvie's Runcast. This Runcast is a sham because I'm injured, and so I actually am not running, I'm walking, but whatever. I have all these thoughts that I can't stop thinking about, and so y'all are gonna hear about it. Throw something away. Alright, so today in Bangkok, they were having this big meeting, right? So this meeting is meant to be like a pre-meeting so that they can draft something and then they'll kick it up to the sport authority, and then decisions will be made in the next 6 months. So they're like really giving themselves quite a bit of time to figure out what they're gonna do with these ideas and drafts. But they proposed a couple of different things, and the two that are really biggest on the ticket and that are most controversial, most argued about, and that I kind of feel the most intensely about are one, changing all fights to being day before weigh-ins, as it is in Thailand for especially for belt fights, but for like 5-round fights, you have to weigh in the morning of the fight. And then they have exceptions for what is categorized as like entertainment Muay Thai, and apparently they have a secondary category here. It's entertainment and business Muay Thai. This is like a section 4. I don't know how much you guys geek out about this kind of thing, but Takralek, who is in the Muay Thai library, he's from the Dejrat Academy. Ajahn Surat is incredible. He's one of my favorite people to follow on Facebook because he's surly and very like straightforward, and I agree with a lot of what he says. He's very gruff, but he's one of the most feared and most respected trainers in Thailand for decades. He trained the Thai national team forever. The Dejrat Academy just produced some of the strongest fighters you'll ever see. So Takralek comes from that. And he's also a lawyer, so he's very, very intelligent in how he presents his ideas. He always, when he's talking about things, presents like multiple ways of looking at things that I really appreciate. He recently came out with a post where he was talking about like, we need to actually start categorizing what we mean by Muay Thai, because there's so many different kinds of Muay Thai happening now. He's like, they're not all the same, and right now the Boxing Act only covers some of them. Like, there are exceptions being made for these other ones because they don't fall within it, but then they also are supposed to fall within it, and blah blah, like all this kind of a legal argument towards what is called Muay Thai and what isn't. This came about not too long ago, where there's an argument that one should not be able to call itself Muay Thai because it has so many exceptions to what it does, like using the small gloves is actually against the Boxing Act, and many other things that they're doing do not abide by the Boxing Act, which all other Muay Thai has to abide by, so you can't call it the same thing, kind of thing. Apparently, legally, they do have some kind of distinction. They call this like a category 4, which is entertainment and business Muay Thai. This is Muay Thai that does not involve gambling. So Channel 7, even though it's 5-round traditional Muay Thai, they barred gambling since COVID. They don't allow gamblers into the stadium anymore. Lumpini also has no gambling anymore, but Lumpini also has no 5-round fights anymore. So Channel 7 is this kind of odd duck in the whole situation because it is still traditional 5-round Muay Thai. It still has all the same rules and fighters, and even the promoters, Giat Pet is very like traditional Muay Thai, but they don't allow gamblers in, and so they fit within this entertainment and business section 4. The reason that's important is that these two things that were being proposed, the day before weigh-in situation, and then also showing round by round scoring. So this means displaying the scores each round, which is what they do at RWS, which is 3-round entertainment Muay Thai. This is very against gambling. Like, gambling will never be happy with showing the scores every round because then you can't really play odds. You can never have big turnarounds. You can never have big wins. Basically, it's like a huge punch in the gut to gambling, and gambling is a very big part of standard stadium Muay Thai. At the end of this meeting, which basically was a meeting for a meeting, drafting this document that's going to get kicked up to the SAT, Channel 7, because it fits within this category 4, has decided that they are going to start implementing this round by round scoring, which they are able to do because they don't fall within this like traditional Muay Thai set, and because they don't have gamblers. So they're going to play with it. They're going to see how that goes in 5-round Muay Thai. Because they don't have gamblers, there's really not like a huge problem with them doing it. I find it incredibly boring. I've seen fights that have open scoring. They do it in the Olympics. They do it in IFMA. These are amateur competitions. And so it's a different thing. Like it's not the same thing as watching Muay Thai fights where you can have these really huge, really amazing turnarounds that are very exciting. But so Channel 7 is going to try it. What was put into this draft, which is really interesting, is instead of showing the score every round, which was the proposal, they came up with this new idea, which is that at the end, when the hand has already been raised, the decision's already been given, then they will show, like in a graphic, what the scores were and what, like the names of the judges who gave those scores. I've seen this before. If you watch One Song Chai, like Best of One Song Chai on YouTube, back in the day, this is Golden Age fighting, they do this. You'll see a graphic come up and it says the name of the judge and what score they gave. And the scoring was different back then, so you'll see something like 45.5 will be like the winning score, which to me is baffling, but that's how they used to score it. That to me is actually really good compromise. So you can see immediately after who scored it and how they scored it. So if there's something suspicious, you have a name and you have the score and you can be like, that's not right, whatever the thing is, which is supposed to be what you're trying to get out of having round by round scoring, is this like fairness situation. This allows for gambling, but then also solves this kind of like not having nebulous, nefarious scoring going on that nobody knows about. Something that Tapia said to me today, he's the head of Sor Clinme. When he fought, he was Tapia Sitbor. He's part of the Sor Clinme, or just Clinme family. Tons of legends in that family. He's raised his sons in Muay Thai and his daughter. He says that there are amateur games here that they do open scoring, but they don't show for round 4. So they'll show the scores in rounds 1 through 3. They don't show the score for round 4, and then they show it for round 5 so that you can see what the overall score is and the winner. This is kind of interesting too, so that you're not basically like out of the fight by round 3, which is often what happens. If you watch amateur, like IFMA, this kind of thing, or even RWS, because it's only 3 rounds, if you see someone's already won rounds 1 and 2, like the fight's already over. People complaining about like everyone dances off the last rounds in 5-round Muay Thai, like the way that people are conditioned to fight, they're going to be dancing off when they know that they've already lost, because what is the point? Or if you've already won, why would you come forward and that kind of thing? So open scoring has a lot of consequences for how people are going to fight fights. The thing with day before weigh-ins kind of thing is who is that good for? That's good for bigger fighters. So basically small fighters get a greater disadvantage than they currently have with the day of weigh-in. So I don't know, this is something that has been argued before. They've proposed this before, but because there are so many more entertainment shows that do use day before weigh-in now, the frequency of people seeing this kind of habit is making it more acceptable, and this one actually might pass. The thing that's pushing against it right now is that it's expensive to do day before weigh-ins, because you now have to have rooms for fighters who have to travel far and come a whole day early, rather than just giving them giving them a room the day of the fight. So in this draft proposing for day before weigh-ins, the government will actually pay for what is that word? Subsidize promotions in order to have day before weigh-ins, which is kind of interesting. So there's a number of things that I'm thinking. I'm just giving you like the news of what's happening right now in order to get to this point. The things that I'm thinking about, the thing that's making me actually do this runcast right now as I'm thinking about this, is that the solutions that are being offered are meant to be solutions for the problem of people not fighting the way that people really want them to, like the kind of slow rounds 1 and 2 and dancing off round 5. that people talk about as though this is like the biggest problem in the world and that it's universal, which isn't. But this is a problem. People don't like it. And so they're trying to solve that. And then there's also an actual problem with gambling corruption and decisions not being good and judges being bought and all these different kinds of things. Fighters being paid to throw fights. These are real problems, and these are significant problems, even if they're not universal, widespread, as common as people kind of make them out to be. But it's something that people are trying to solve. In Thailand, even though gambling is legal in the stadia of Lumpini and Rajadamnern, like, gambling in Thailand is actually illegal everywhere, but you're allowed to do it in certain places. So that's why people really like gambling at Muay Thai, is that this was made legal. And so it's not a hobby. It's not something that people just kind of also do. Gamblers who gamble on Muay Thai and who are really into it, they're professional gamblers. Like, this is what they do, and they're incredibly good at it. And something that Kevin and I have talked about a lot in terms of looking at Muay Thai and gambling and trying to separate the two. I often say it's like trying to unmake soup. They've symbiotically come up together. Gambling is very, very important for Muay Thai. It's not just that Muay Thai is what gamblers like to gamble on. For Muay Thai, gambling is very important. One, it makes it more fair, because gamblers will not abide by huge disparities in advantages and disadvantages because they won't bet on it. This is also one of the reasons that women's Muay Thai has kind of been much slower coming up, is that gamblers didn't really like to gamble on it. There are female Muay Thai fans, like fans of female Muay Thai, they're men, but they're huge supporters. They absolutely love female Muay Thai, and this is great because you want people watching, and this is part of how entertainment Muay Thai has been the avenue through which female Muay Thai has really been bolstered in the past couple of years. But for gamblers don't super love female Muay Thai. And I think part of that is that women, because of the way that we have disadvantages and are not given the same access to how we're allowed to train, there's so many things to go into, but women are just not as consistent. Gamblers do love kids, like they really love gambling on kids because literally anything can happen, which kind of makes it seem like female Muay Thai is a little bit in that same vein. Sometimes it can be that way, but I don't know, women's Muay Thai is much more, historically, is much more like point fighting. I don't know. I don't want to get into it because I have feelings about it and I don't want to talk about it as a fact of historical record, whereas this is just kind of something that I think. Anyway, when people are making these proposals about how to fix Muay Thai and they're talking about open scoring or something like this is a way to like get rid of the corruption of gambling, and gambling is terrible. Gambling being illegal in Thailand and only being allowed in certain spaces gives gambling this kind of like ne'er-do-well, grubby underclass kind of thing that like it's very, very hard to get help or respect for drug users in America or something, because they're just seen as like vice-gripped, horrible people. And so instead of seeing them as like people who need help or people who actually have a whole culture or something like this, like gambling and drugs are not actually the same thing, but they're kind of thrown in with the same attitude of like, these are bad people. And so it's very easy to be like, just get rid of these people, get rid of the gamblers because this is a vice, this is terrible, we should get rid of them, rather than that this is a actual way of life. Like, this is actually a profession for a lot of people. And because it's symbiotic with Muay Thai, just getting rid of it, trying to unmake the soup in a way, has a lot of consequences. So I was trying to think of examples that Westerners might understand in terms of what just getting rid of gambling would be like, or these ideas that are being proposed kind of being not amazing ideas that are being proposed. A lot of the things of people being like, just get rid of gambling, just do open scoring in order to get rid of gambling, the things that are being proposed to fix Muay Thai are not being proposed by people who are deep into Muay Thai. Something that Ajahn Surat said that I thought was really poetic was he was talking about the authorities that are making these decisions, and he's like, they've never put their hands in a glove before. And he means they're not fighters. Like, they're not really part of the Muay Thai community, and they're proposing these changes. They're who's in charge of making these decisions. And I feel this very deeply because I know that there are lots of Westerners, there are lots of people outside of Thailand who are lovers of Muay Thai. They love Muay Thai, they do Muay Thai, they practice Muay Thai, they're really into it, but they'll still go along with these kind of ideas for how to fix Thailand's Muay Thai while they have absolutely no idea how it actually functions here. So doing open scoring or making it 3 rounds or making it more, just go forward, just kind of like pure sport or pure brawl fest or whatever, the Muay Thai that they're familiar with, that they know, looks more like this, and so making it more like this thing that you already know makes sense. But where you are and what the Muay Thai is where you are is not the same situation as what Muay Thai is here. Literally a way of life, literally a lineage, the way it's practiced in the provinces. Gambling is actually a way that fighters who are not paid very well can actually make money, like it can actually be lucrative. So we as Westerners often think only of the kadua. This is the fight purse. This is what you're promised to be paid in order to come and fight. And these are abysmally low numbers. In the golden age, they could be pretty good. Diesel Noi has the highest kadua ever, outside of like Bokau, fighting on whatever. But like real kadua in 5-round Muay Thai, Diesel Noi got paid the most ever, which I think was 400,000 baht was his kadua to fight against Samart. Nothing has come close to that ever. And before COVID, fight purses were okay. Like a single fight could earn you like 30, 40, 50,000 baht for like a high-level fighter. Now decently high-level fighters are really making like not even half that. They're making like 25, 30,000, something like that. And then like the mid-range fighters are making 12, 10. Like it's really, really bad. But you could always supplement that, and you could always actually come away with good money by gambling. This could be from the odds. This could be from Dermpan, which is the side bet that you go in 50-50 on. And these things are significant. Like these things, you can actually earn a pretty good amount of money bit by bit by gambling on your fights. And even low-level fighters can do this. Even small fighters can do this if they have enough people putting money into the pot. And something that Sifu, who also in the Muay Thai library, he's been here since the Golden Age. He was very, very close with Ajahn Tui, who's Sidyotong. So gambling was huge. Something that Sifu was talking about was that this is actually how trainers made money as well. Like they got paid to hold pads and stuff like this on like a monthly basis or something like that. But when they would really build a fighter and make that fighter consistent so that they could put money on them when they went and they fought, that's how they actually made money back. Gamblers would tip out really well. If you were Karahat, you are from Konkan, people from Konkan, because they're like, this is our champion, he's from Konkan, we identify with it, we love our local fighters. When he fought, everyone would bet, and it might be like small amounts, it might be like 200, 300 baht, something like that, but everyone, even small village people, are making a little bit of money when he wins, because gambling was so much of a like community big thing. Gambling having gone online, and people gambling who aren't even there, and gamblers getting way more authority and control over things than they used to have, all of this is a problem, all of this is corruption, and all of that actually does need to be addressed, but none of it is addressed by simply getting rid of gambling, and none of it is addressed by changing the open scoring kind of thing. So the examples that forever ago I said I was going to bring up to help you understand how maybe, if I'm not just talking specifically about Muay Thai, might help people understand how complex this is. So, education, right? Schools kind of thing. I don't have kids. I grew up in public education. Public education is important to me. I don't want dum-dums around. I want people to go to school. I want schools to be good. I think schools are very important for kids to learn the correct things and to kind of have lots of opportunities. I think it's very good socially for kids to go to school. Schools are important to me, even though I don't have kids. But because I don't have kids, because I'm not actually in school, my skin in the game, so to speak, for school and education is much less than someone who actually has kids in school. So when we're talking about Muay Thai and the decisions we want to make and how to fix it, there are people who have a lot of skin in the game, and there are people who have very little skin in the game. And people who have very little skin in the game are having a big voice in what's being proposed to change Muay Thai. In the education situation, you can make decisions that are purely educational, and they're hard to argue against. You know, like, you want these subjects to be covered, for purely educational reasons, you want to kind of fund these kinds of things. You're like, that seems good, you know, like purely educationally. But even in a school, it's not purely educational. Children are not just purely pupil objects. They actually live and function within a society. So the example I thought of was, say a study comes out that says that kids do better when the school day is an hour or two shorter. One, so that they're not spending so much time sitting at a desk, or two, because their circadian rhythms, whatever, blah, blah, blah. These studies come out all the time. When I was in high school, they were talking about how starting school a little bit later was better for kids. And the high school I went to was kind of like a hippie high school, and we started a little bit later. From the standpoint of, I just want to do what's good for kids, and so that's what we're going to do. This is great. People are like, yeah, this is better for kids. There's a couple of studies that show that they do marginally better, and so we're going to make it this way. This does not take into account all the things that go into changing that. There are parents who have to work until 5 o'clock, and so they don't get home until after 5, and if the school gets out an hour or two earlier, they can't have their kid home alone for hours at a time. So now they either have to pay money to have childcare, which they can't afford, or they have to send their kid to some kind of extracurricular activity after school, like some kind of holding pattern, which may not cost them anything, but now the kid is still sitting in a desk for another 2-3 hours a day that you were supposed to be shortening by shortening the workday. There are not buses at 2 p.m., whereas there are buses at 3:30 p.m. There are all kinds of things that have to be taken into consideration when you're making a decision to change something like that are not small decisions. You also might look at it of like, where did this research come from? We had some charter schools that were small, that have a very different type of education system than a public school, and those kids did well with an hour and a half, 2 hours shaved off the day. But these are people who are already more affluent. These are already people who are less dependent on the public school system, and so they're going to benefit the most from this change, whereas the people who are the most dependent on a public education system are actually going to struggle with the most. This is the same thing that's happening with the changes you might want to make in Muay Thai, is that the people who are already having the hardest time in Muay Thai are going to have a harder time making money surviving in Muay Thai. The changes that they're trying to make that are making it much harder for gambling and all these different things, these are going to make it very hard for smaller gyms. Bigger gyms are not going to struggle that much with this, but smaller gyms might. I will add to this that Tapia, who I trust, he knows Muay Thai. He grew up in Muay Thai. His family is huge. He's the youngest of 11 kids, and they all have been involved in Muay Thai for so long. He was so dirt poor, and he became champion. Like, he's probably one of the biggest stars of Pattaya. He's all for open scoring, and the reason he's for open scoring is because he feels like, as a small gym, he can't compete with the bigger gyms that have influence and sway over the judges and the price. Like, they literally can set the odds with the power of their gym, and he's like, I can't compete with this as a small gym, so I like the idea of open scoring. But he's not taking into account in that his kids are not going to be able to turn over a fight and kind of like come from behind and that kind of thing, which I don't know how important that is to him. But it's interesting that the small gym situation and the big gym situation may or may not be affected in the same way by these changes. He had an interesting proposal, which is that part of the problem is that judges and refs are kind of bought. Judges and refs are paid really bad. I had no idea they're paid so badly. They work for 6-7 hours because say there's a fight on Tuesday night. They have half the show on TV, and then they take a 30-minute break, and then they have another half that's online. And this is like 4 or 5 fights per half, so this is like 8 to 10 fights. So there's a couple of hours that they're working every night, and they get paid like 1,000 baht to sit there and do this. So if they do this 3 times a week, that's 3,000 baht a week, so 12,000 baht a month. This is not an incredible amount of money. It would be very, very easy to bribe someone who gets paid so badly. So his proposal, Tapia's proposal, is that instead of having judges work for the venue, which is how it works right now and which is how it worked back in the Golden Age, if you're a Lumpini judge, you are a judge only at Lumpini. Channel 7 has their own people, Lumpini has their own people. His proposal is to make this a government job, like basically you work for the sport authority, and so everyone is a sport authority referee, and you don't know which venue you're going to work at, you don't know which show you're going to work at until like an hour or two before that, so you can't bribe someone because you know they work for Raja Damnern and they're having this big show on Thursday and blah 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 blah. Instead, it's like kind of a surprise where you're going to go. This is a very interesting idea. The other example I was trying to think of to like help people understand how it's hard to make these proposals in how to fix something is that you can never just fix one thing without unsettling other things or without fixing these other things first. Sia Boat came out with a very good post about how the open scoring actually doesn't solve any of the problems that people are having with the gambling. It just creates greater complications and makes it so that there's no possibility for a fighter to kind of like turn over in round 4. Kevin made a point, which is like, this change in open scoring actually doesn't dissuade big gyms at all, because they can still sway the judges. They're like, just give my fighter rounds 1 and 2, which puts them at such a lead that it would be very, very hard for them to lose that fight. I don't think that's where they make most of their money. I think they make their money with like a turnaround, because you'll see these fights where like someone is in the lead and so the price is crazy, and then someone throws someone or like drops someone in a round, which shouldn't actually change the fight that much, but the odds go completely in the other direction. Then you can make a lot of money on this turnaround. So that would be harder in terms of trying to show the round by round scoring kind of thing like this. But that's also something called ad cheat, which is where you like give an injection. This is a way that small fighters can make a lot of money on a fight, is if they're able to kind of turn it around last minute. Very similar to a knockout bonus on 1 or whatever, except that it's not promised before the fight, it's happening in the fight based on the odds. And then gamblers tip out, this kind of thing. So if you have fewer gamblers and they're not making as big of profits, because the fight is basically a slow and steady thing like this, you're not going to be able to give injections, and you're not going to be able to tip out as much, because gamblers just aren't going to be making as much money. Maybe specific to Americans, the idea of tipping culture is huge, and I think is a very good example of gambling and Muay Thai. So service industry in America and tipping is symbiotic. Like, this is a relationship that like just completely goes together. There are arguments for getting rid of tipping because like people think it's very unfair. Some people don't tip, they don't get paid enough, blah blah blah. You cannot get rid of tipping without first paying service industry workers a living wage. That has to happen first, and they don't do that. So you can't get rid of gambling without first completely increasing in a very significant way the kadua of fighters. There's also this thing about tipping, which is that because it has been in the relationship of the service industry for so long, there are people who have learned to be very, very good at it. I was a bartender. I've worked in the service industry before. The longer you work in it, the better you become at it, and you can make an incredible amount through the skills that you've made, through the relationship you make with service and tipping, to the point that you're like, it's better for me to be earning these tips rather than making $14 an hour regardless, kind of thing. So it goes up and down in the same way that you might make a lot of money in gambling, or you might not make, you might lose a lot of money in gambling, but it's significantly more than the like, I fight 10 times and make 10,000 baht each time and like hope that that kind of adds up kind of thing. People outside of America think that tipping is kind of ridiculous. They hate it. They get really uncomfortable about it. People in America really get upset about this, but people in the service industry who are kind of like used to it or have become good about it, they're like, this is great for me. I like the idea that I can make $400 in a night. you know, twice a week or something, rather than $7.50 an hour every day or that kind of thing. People outside of America who are like, well, this is stupid, we should just get rid of the tipping culture because in my culture we don't do the tipping and everyone gets along fine. That's because you actually get paid a living wage. So it's this thing again where like you cannot get rid of the one thing without fixing the other thing. And in some ways, even though it's very messed up, even though tipping culture is very bizarre in America and not paying people a living wage, like literally as a bartender, because of taxes, my paycheck would be $0. I got paid $0 to work throughout the week, but I could take home, you know, $1,000 a week or a couple $100s a night on a really, really busy night, because of the kind of place that I worked in, because of tipping, because of all of these things. To me, I'm like, that's great. I don't really want to change that. You would have to systematically change the entire thing in order to change that cost benefit of, okay, I want to get paid $17 an hour regardless and not have to worry about the tipping part. But again, people who have been working in it for a really long time, they learn how to use that system in a really amazing way, to the point where you're like, I'm this kind of server, I'm this kind of bartender. Like, I am not a cute, blonde, large-breasted, flirty. This is not the kind of bartender I was. So the way that I became good at earning my tips is being the kind of like small, sullen, fast guys who like girls who are like a little bit mean. Like that's my thing. That's great. That's the same thing with fighting, is that fighters actually learn how to fight for gambling, like for the odds, and like how to turn something around. This is the same as being the kind of waiter who works for tips, and they're very good at it. And you're like, how the hell is Charlie pulling so much money, whereas the rest of us are making like 10% on all of our checks, and he's making all of this money? It's because they've learned how to work for that tip in the same way that they're fighters who know how to fight for the odds. They know how to turn it around. They know how to perform. There are fighters who are very, very good, like prize fighters. They're great at either having a dermpan, like they're amazing at having these side bets because they know they can win no matter what, or they're really great at kind of like playing the early rounds a little bit and then taking off in the scoring rounds. Two opposite fighters, Dang Kong Fa, she is an amazing prize fighter. She's all about the dermpan. Like, she would put these crazy side bets. She and Alicia were the first women to fight for $1 million baht side bet. This was amazing. There are no women who are fighting for $1 million baht side bet. It was very, very high profile. Alicia had just become one champion. She had previously lost to Dong Kong Fa. I think she had beat Dong Kong Fa, but she ended up losing the $1 million baht side bet. But it was this huge thing. Like, everyone was really into it because Dong Kong Fa knows how to fight a dermpan fight. Like, she is brilliant at this. She completely has it under control. The opposite of this is Pet Ji Ja. Pet Ji Ja was fighting boys when she was young. She was pretty well known. It was very hard for her to get fights. And so you wouldn't put a dermpan on that because people were like, this is not something that I have the confidence to go up against. I think Tapia had a young boy fighter at his gym who did fight Pet Ji Ja for a dermpan, and he won, but this was like earlier. So instead of having a dermpan, when Pet Ji Ja would go around, she would play the odds. And if you watch, I was at her gym, so I would watch her fight. The way she fights her fights, she always sandbagged in rounds 1 and 2. I don't think I ever saw her win rounds 1 or 2 in any of the fights that I went and watched, because people wanted the odds to be like, oh my god, this is going to be the time that Pet Ji Ja loses. And then by the time the price changes, she can turn it around, and all of a sudden all of the odds are in this certain direction, and she can take a lot more money because the odds were actually against her until later in the fight. These are two completely different ways of fighting. Both are winning, both are playing with gambling, but they're different skill sets. And this is very similar to people who know how to earn tips based on, you know, whatever their service qualities are. And taking that away, if you get rid of that kind of gambling, Pet Ji Ja doesn't exist. She doesn't exist. She just would run out of people to fight her, and she would stop fighting. That's what would have happened with her. Dang Kong Fa is not like an incredibly skilled fighter in that sense. She's incredibly skilled in the sense of being able to fight dermpan fights. She's so skilled at being able to win, but she's not like beautiful, technical skilled. If she was not a prize fighter, working her way around Isan and having success like this, you would not have Dong Kong Fa either. You would absolutely not have Sanchai if there was no gambling. You wouldn't have had so many of the things that we know about Thailand's Muay Thai without gambling. And you cannot have these kinds of exciting turnarounds with open scoring in a like round by round scoring situation. If that's the way they're going to go, they're going to have to work around so many other things in order to make Muay Thai not amateur. Like, I don't know so much about Western boxing. I watch Western boxing. I watch the big fights. I watch the ones they play them here for free in Thailand, which is very, very lucky. I watch old fights. Like, I watch the kind of golden age of boxing. Love that kind of stuff. I cannot watch amateur boxing. It's unwatchable. You know who else can't? Almost everybody. Like, nobody watches amateur boxing anymore, to the point that it's not in the Olympics. Like, it's been cut from the Olympics or threatened to be cut from the Olympics many times. This could happen with actual Thailand's Muay Thai, is that the people making these proposals who are like, this is how you fix it, this is what you do, they already don't watch Muay Thai. So the people who do watch Muay Thai, the people who are keeping it alive in the sense of like, we are the ones who are watching it, they're going to stop watching it too. So, I don't know. Basically, I'm just talking about ways of looking at how complicated this is, and that any of the things that are presented as solutions are never cut and dry, easy solutions. And that's a little bit of the state of what's being proposed right now. So, yeah, that's my blah blah at the moment. I hope you guys have enjoyed and have some things to think about. Sylvie out.